Larsen and Werner Berger that have done some amazing things. Werner is a world record holder for having climbed all of the 7 tallest mountains in the world, one on each continent. And Collette has been a dear friend of mine, top income earner, changed countless numbers of people's lives for the better. And this is a quick video that I want to show you, and then we're going to bring back and we're going to have them both on.
We are in, where are we at, Zach? Tangboche. And it is the most spectacular sight I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if you'll even see this, but that is Mount Everest. It's so bright this morning that probably you can't see it. But that is Mount Everest, right? Through there. And this is the valley below, a little community there, a bakery there where we had some hot chocolate yesterday, the horses, the Sherpas. This is what a prayer looks like. It's hard. It's hard to even look at it without crying. Honestly, it is so spectacular. And there's the monastery. And we're having breakfast and getting ready for a 6-hour hike. And my battery is about gone.
Wow, Werner. Oh my goodness, I haven't seen that for years. Oh, wow. That was before, that's just when we were starting to get video on our cameras. That obviously wasn't, or maybe that was just a video from I don't think we even had camera phones back then. I can't remember, but I'm glad I got that.
So we're going to be doing this next section with Werner Berger, Collette Larsen, and this is a picture of Everest. Now, the video you just watched is was a monastery with a small hotel and an internet cafe. They actually had a big old satellite that you could use for internet. And I didn't climb and I didn't trek into these places like Collette has done. I took a helicopter. I cheated.
That's cheating.
But I got a great view of it. And so I've been right where she's talking about in Tangboche, and it's just incredible. In America, we have hills, these mountains, but in Nepal, they are massive. They're massive, and there is a lot of them. When I was in Tibet, we have a mountain here that's called Mount Timpanogos, and it's about 12,000 feet up. And when I was in China, in Tibet, the people live at that altitude. It's like being on top mountain. And then just imagine going up all the way to around 30,000 feet. Now, when you're in an airplanes, a lot of them fly at between 25 and 30,000, or a little bit more if they're bigger, but it's 30,000 feet and it's way up there. And here's some pictures of Collette and one of her 2 sons. This is Zach.
That's Dax. No, is that Zach or Dax? I can't even tell. I think that's Zachary. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that looks like Zach. And that's a prayer wheel that they're using right there that they spin, which is really cool. And there's
that's Zach and me.
That's Zach. That's the younger boy. Collette, why don't you talk about this one?
Oh my gosh, this is so special to me. So on the far left is my oldest son, Dax, who actually turns 50 this year. Hello, how did that happen? I don't know. And then me, and then my son, Zachary. They're just 16 months apart. And then on the far right, I named my sons Dax and Zach. How confusing is that? Well, we thought it would be Zachary, but it got shortened to Zach. So Dax, Zach, and then on the far right is my son-in-law, Ryan. He is married to my daughter, Charlie, that had the double lung heart transplant. And it was such an awesome experience. It changed our relationship. I'm so close to all my kids, but this experience that we shared was just, I'm saying, oh, there we are crossing one. It was so There were so many suspension bridges. Oh my goodness. And you'd look way, so now this one's not so far down, but some of them you'd look down to I think it was the Milk River. I mean, it was so far down. It was so scary. But that last day, when I was saying I was like the slowest one, I will never forget going around a turn. And there were my 3 sons and Werner waiting for me. And they just, as I kind of just barely, I didn't know if I could even get to them, but when I did, I sort of stumbled forward. They all put their arms around me. By the way, I had the very wonderful opportunity of being up there with them on Mother's Day. And it remains the most special Mother's Day of my life. The Sherpas in the little tea house we were staying in made a cake, and my boys said things about me. I mean, it was just, and then they gave me a fleece, a fleece that I still have and cherish, for a Mother's Day gift that they'd bought me in a little shop in one of those little tiny, you saw the little village. Anyway, what a special, special opportunity. Werner, that decision, I kind of have to thank Rick for saying there's no possible way, because if he hadn't said that, I probably wouldn't have gone. And it remains to this day one of the highlights of my life.
If I might jump in, that's very much like Heshe, actually. When somebody says to Heshe, you can't do something, her automatic response is, watch me.
Yeah, really. We're sisters from another mother, Heshe.
And actually, there's a story that ties in so well with this. We were getting toward La Bougie, which was the last place we stayed before we got to Everest Base Camp. And you were with a group that was a bit on the slower side. And
Yeah.
I got to La Bougie and had decided that I would come back to meet with your group and take some of the weight that you guys were carrying. And this was at 15,000 feet. And I said to you, Collette, give me your pack. And you
I remember.
said, no. And I said,
Yeah, no.
give me your pack, Collette, because I can do this. I'm just now walking back to where I had been. And you said, no, I didn't come here to give you my pack. I am doing this. And I
That's
never
right.
forget that tenacity.
I was determined. If I was the last one, and I think I was, but I was determined to do it on my own. You know, the air got so thin. One of the things that really drove me to do this was thinking about my daughters, because at 15,000 feet, Werner, you'll have to help me. I can't remember, but you're only able to, I mean, what's the oxygen that you're taking in? I remember it was so similar to what Charlie and Lexi, because they by the time Charlie had her transplant, she was only using 16% of her lung capacity. And so for us to be where we were and to have to breathe, I'd take a step, and the thing that got me through, we talk about moving your business forward every day, the same principles getting up to base camp. Well, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And what I would do to keep walking, because the air was so thin, I would think of my daughters and how this is how they breathed every day. I remember Lexi explaining it to me when she was on her oxygen, and she would say, it's like trying to breathe through a tiny straw all the time. And that's how I felt up at base camp. But I would put one foot in front of me and I would say, Dax, Sanam, Sophie, Beckett, Kaya. I went through each of my children and each of my grandchildren. And I remember getting really kind of concerned at one point, Werner, because I could not remember my grandson Ethan's name. I could see his face, but my brain was getting so, you're up really high and there's just not a lot of oxygen. And I remember going, what's his name? What's his name? Ethan, just taking another step. And I just kept doing that through each of my children and grandchildren. And, now today, I still hike every single day. But if I'm going up a steep incline or something, I still go back to that. And I just think of each of my children and grandchildren. That gives me that oomph to keep moving forward. But thank you for offering to take my backpack. I just had to be able to say, I did it. I did it on my own. I did it.
I guess one of the questions for you, Collette, is what did you learn about yourself on that trek?
Well, the number one thing I learned is that I can do really hard things, really hard things. That base camp, actually the hardest physical day of my life. Oh, Rebby, go out your doggy door. My beautiful white lab is pawing me, going, take me out. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. Just a minute, sweetie. Just a minute. I wish I could show you all my beautiful dog. Anyway, I learned that I can do really hard things. The hardest physical day of my life was doing Mount Whitney. After we got back from base camp, I went, hey, I'm a hiker. I'm going to do Mount Whitney, which is the tallest peak in the US, in the 48 states, I should say. There's taller peaks in Alaska. But we did that in one day, where our trek was, 2 or 3 weeks, or, and it was a spiritual hero's journey kind of thing. But this one day, but I could never have done that had I not done base camp. But oh my goodness, it did teach me that our bodies we're made of strong stuff. And when Werner, I mean, look at you. It's just absolutely amazing the things that you've accomplished. We can do harder things than we realize. And the other thing that I learned on that is that I rely on experts. I relied on Werner. I mean, he taught me what I needed to do. He encouraged me to get fit. I knew we had someone with us that knew what they were doing. As Tom said earlier, we study success principles from people who've been successful. So all of you that are on these calls, you're here. I saw the list of people. I thought, what am I doing on here? I'm just a mom. I'm a grandma Coco. That's my name. It's my favorite title. But, I did find a little niche for myself, and I applied principles that I learned and just did it consistently. And so I have surrounded myself with people who are more successful than me, and I have learned from them. And Werner, you're one of those. Tom, you're another. I've just learned from people who I looked up to, and then I've tried to apply things that they've taught me. Just a minute. I want you to see my cute. Can you see my cute puppy? Look at her. She's like, yeah. hello, mama. Hello, mama. Please take me out.
I think you said something so important just a moment ago when you said, I'm just a mom. Because what I learned over time is that most of us grow up not having a true sense of who we are. In fact, we think of ourselves as so much less than who we are. And we'll say, oh, I'm just a mom. I used to say,
that's a good point.
I'm just a farm boy from South Africa. What do you expect? Was sort of the fun thing for me to say. But that's what was in my head. Mm-hmm. And I did not realize how incredibly unique every single one of us is, not relative to just what we can accomplish physically, but what we can contribute to the world. And Tom is a prime example here, a shining example of what do you do when you have pushed the envelope on the making money side, but make a difference. And so his uniqueness is showing in that. Your uniqueness showed in helping so many people gain their lives back. My uniqueness has become being so aware of how important it is to get to know who you are. And until you know who you are and you accept your warts as well as recognize your brilliance, you really cannot live the kind of life that you want to live. And that's part of my passion right now. And your passion was to help people to make a difference, to be much more than just a mom, which of course is one of the most incredible jobs that anybody can ever have.
Right. That's a very good point, Werner. I guess I should change that to say, I am a freaking awesome mother and an even better grandma. And, those are the titles. Whenever I speak anywhere around the world, they want this whole, tell us what, and I go, my favorite title is Grandma Coco. The fact that I can impact the lives of those 20 beautiful children That's you know, but when I say just a mom, that comes from, but I shouldn't say just, I should say I'm a freaking awesome mom.
Yeah, and I recognize that in you. You know, you are, you are not just a mom. But I was just picking up on that because most of us
Yeah,
really see our limitations. We don't see our uniqueness. We don't see our brilliance unless something shifts in our lives. And
right.
suddenly, we become connected to ourselves. And I'm so clear that until I'm connected to myself, I cannot be truly connected to anything else. I can't be connected to the environment. I cannot be connected to the extent or care as much about people or what's around me than when I'm at least partially connected to myself.
Mm, that's perfect. Yes, and you live that. You live that. You personify that connectedness. Absolutely. I think one of the important things that I want to get across to your students today, Tom, is that when I say just a mom, and I guess, and when Werner used to say, "I'm a farm boy from South Africa," I think what we're trying to say is, if we can do this, you can do this. Like we weren't endowed with any special pixie dust that allowed us to live these principles and have the success that we've had. And I would always say to people, if I can do it, you can do it. Do you understand that? Single mother, 5 children, 2 who were critically ill, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, no references, no experience, no higher education. That's the point. If I can do this, and your why, you can do it. If your why is big enough and you're willing to roll up your sleeves and go to work.
Collette, talk a little bit more about what it felt like. And I know the video talked a little bit, your little clip talked a little bit about that. What did it feel like to be in this grandeur, in these valleys, and look up at these magnificent mountains? What was going on for you in that?
The magnificence of it. It was, even though I'd seen pictures, like you can see Tom's picture, that beautiful one of Everest, I'd seen lots of pictures. My dad was a subscriber to the National Geographic magazine. So I'd looked at pictures, but nothing could have prepared me for the grandeur, for the massiveness of it. Again, I mean, the Sierras are beautiful. The Tetons, where I grew up in Idaho, they're beautiful, but nothing can compare you for doubling the height and having to look up like that. And I heard people say, I felt, you feel so small, so insignificant. I didn't have that experience. I felt larger, more full of life, like this earth, the fact that I'm here. What did I do? How blessed, I must, we're incredible. It's like you said, we're incredible, that we're part of all this, that we can see this. I never felt like, oh, I'm so insignificant. I felt like, wow, so different people have different experiences with it, I think. And I just felt part of this connectedness, this part of this world. And I still feel that, on my hikes now have become my sacred cathedrals. I mean, that's where I go to commune with whatever divine is out there. I find it in nature. And so much of that comes from you, Werner. I used to feel like I could find that inside buildings. No more, man. I am out there. Every day we have a list of places, I go into All Trails, that app, and I go, okay, I'm hiking every trail around this lake. 2 years ago, my husband Rick did the Tahoe Rim Trail, 175 miles. And then I would hike in and meet him and take him things, and my dog and I would hike. And it was, I just find it it was a spiritual awakening for me. Something shifted. You said it. Something shifted in me. You could kind of hear it in that video. It's like, oh my goodness, I never dreamed that this was what it would be like. And it just filled me up. Oh
my gosh, I could piggyback on so much of what you said. And one of the things that kicks out for me is when somebody says, I felt so insignificant. It might not mean that they felt less.
Right.
They just felt incredibly humble relative to this grandeur. And when you talk about the emotional part, I see that as a connectedness, as a
Yeah.
presence of
Yep. Yep.
everything being, of just being part of everything. And out
Yeah.
of that, the humbleness or the humility kicks in and says,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I am so insignificant, but this is so awesome. And
That I'm part of it. Yes. I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day. I was watching him on a show and he talked about how we're all stardust. And I thought, that's it. We're all connected. We're all part of this grand experiment. Do you know what? I'm getting a notice that my laptop is going to die. So I'm going to walk over here. I'm sure we're about done, but I need to go plug it in or I'm going to suddenly go dark on you. Come here, Rev. Come here.
As you can tell, folks, we are doing this live. We're not making this up.
No, we're live. I've got to put my dog outside before I have an accident on the floor here. Okay, I'm plugging in. Let me turn on these lights.
I had the sense that even though you were in a helicopter, you experienced some of this emotion because whenever you talk about that trip with your daughter, something shifts in you. Yeah. And I don't mean you don't glow when you talk about success and money, but there's a switch. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I've got to tell you one of the reasons is I've had 2 major back surgeries. My 4-5, my 5S1 done, and I have major problems with my legs. Standing here is a problem. So for me, and I've gone on some hikes, and the pounding just takes it out of me, and I would be a burden to the rest of the group. So, but I do love helicopters, and I've had that ability to fly up, and I've been over the base camp. I've been to Tambouché, and I've took my 2 youngest kids on the same trek, the same one that we did, and it is a spiritual thing. It is just amazing to see and to be part of such a huge and a massive and a beautiful experience.
Stunned by the world.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Stunned by the world. I love that. Yeah.
Why don't we take 2 more questions and then we'll kind of wrap it up. This has been so awesome to have both of you on. This has been terrific. So what other questions do you have or comments that you want to make, you 2?
Well, I just want to thank you, Tom. Talking so much about gratitude. I'm grateful to you for your friendship, for standing by me through very, we don't need, you know what I'm talking about, through very, very difficult times. And I'm so grateful to be on here with Werner and with Heshi, people who have had a profound impact on my life. And to all of you who have been listening in, I hope something that I've shared, my story, being just being just a freaking awesome mom, that you can say, you know what, if she could do this, I can figure this out. I can figure this out. And the principles that Tom is teaching you about setting aside automatically, letting that seed grow, and then creating a legacy. We're doing that now. We all have the causes that call to our hearts, obviously. And for me, it's the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And I see you're involved with feeding children too. I've gotten involved with the True Health Foundation on a monthly basis where we're feeding children around the world. And then I'm with another brother, we're building wells in Africa and different things. And I said it earlier, and it is a principle. You never have less by giving to those that are less fortunate than you. That doesn't diminish you, it builds you. And so to be able to start setting this aside, letting these seeds grow, they grow into money trees. It's just amazing how we can impact the world. So I thank you for being on with me today. And I hope I've said something that will light a spark within you, that you can fan that flame, and that it'll grow into something just really warm and wonderful.
Well, Collette, you're just so awesome. I just so appreciate it. Werner, do you have any last remarks?
Yeah, a couple. If we treated our environment the way we treat our living room, because ultimately the world is our living room. It would be very, very different. The whole globe would be different because the caring would expand beyond just the environment to everybody within it. In terms of appreciation, I really want to appreciate you, Tom, and you, Collette, because you really are models of what it is to be human. And of course, I have to include my wife, Heshy, in that as well, because her foundation, Kids Better World, is all about her making a difference in the world and bringing water to kids that would otherwise die from drinking polluted water. So I am truly blessed to be in the company of you four, or you three, including me. You four.
You four. You four, that's right.
Well, just in closing, the one thing about gratitude is that I learned is that, and I think I learned a lot of this from Collette. If you're grateful first, you can be sad and grateful at the same time. When my parents passed away, I was incredibly grateful and I was sad, but you can't be mad. You can't be grateful and mad at the same time. You can't be grateful and angry at the same time. Gratitude just puts it right in front of you. And this is why, just on the personal development, we've got Tony Robbins priming. And I did that this morning. I'm doing it probably 4 or 5 times a week. And it's right in your system that you can use. And it all starts with gratitude. It all starts with gratitude. And just like Collette was naming her kids, when I've had to do things, surgeries or in MRIs where you're into this really contained area and it's, for 20, 30 minutes, I just go through the names of all family members, just like you did. I had to take my mind someplace else because it was so hard being in there, claustrophobic. But that's why the foundation was created, is because of a legacy of people like Werner and Collette. This is a legacy product. Heshy, all of our people from around the world, they're all here for the same reason, is that we have lived a life, we have had experience. As I tell my kids, I'm not smarter than you, I'm just more experienced. And we've had all kinds of experiences, and we think that we can help you by simply telling you the things that we've learned and the things that we've done, and hopefully it'll make an impact on you, and probably more importantly on those that you love, because you're the one that's making the difference. Bob Allen says, the good parents give their kids good memories. Bad parents give their kids bad memories. Your job is to give everybody you meet good memories.
Right. I love that.
People are going to talk about you. Give them some good. Give them something good to talk about. So
I love that, Tom. Tom, I have one more quote that I just have all these favorite quotes that are kind of bubbling up for me. And this one is about gratitude that I think about it a lot. And it says, if you've forgotten the language of gratitude, you will never be on speaking terms with happiness. And I love that. I don't know who said it. I'd like to attribute it to someone, but I read it years ago and it just stuck with me. If you've forgotten the language of gratitude, you'll never be on speaking terms with happiness. So if you want to live your life full of joy, start just living this attitude of gratitude. Keep a gratitude journal, whatever you need to do to, like for me, it's walking through and looking and just feeling it, And I can tell by listening to Werner, he's very much that way. It's like, I just want to take it in me. So anyway, I'm grateful.
Yeah. And again, get out a piece of paper every morning, get out a pen and literally write down everything you're grateful for. It could be the wind. It could be, the blue sky. It could be water. It could be the ability to walk, the ability to see. It doesn't have to be. These are all things that we're so grateful for. And I'm so grateful for these two and for all of you that are making this foundation possible. This isn't my foundation. I just got it started. This is your foundation. So in closing, go make a difference. Make it happen.
Thank you, Tom.
And remember,
Tom.
Every life is precious. We'll see you tomorrow where we got another wonderful class.
Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. Bye-bye, Werner, Heshe, all of you. Thank you so much.